Hello everybody. Today's webinar will be on why the FSP Certificate program is important. My name, Ted Stewart. I am the Program Development and Compliance Manager for exida. I have a little more of maybe 10 years of experience, anywhere from safety and high availability automation systems to manufacturing, lean process improvement. Before exida, I worked for Lockheed Martin as a test engineer in the Missiles and Fire Control Department in Orlando, Florida, and then I went and worked for Harris Corporation in Wireless Products Group as a manufacturing engineer and a new product introduction manager. And now I'm here where I am now managing the OEM division, certification division. I'm the deputy quality manager and the director of the CFSE program. So it's a lot of fun. I get to wear a lot of hats here, and I've really enjoyed myself here at exida. If you're not familiar with exida, we were founded in 1999. I always like to say there's always those little red dots across the map that just keep popping up. I feel like every year we're opening up a new division of our business here. Our company was founded by Dr. William Goebel, who resides here in the United States, and also by Mr. Rainer Faller from Germany. Now, exida is involved with the complete supply chain of functional safety in all the different industry sectors, right? Whether it's alarm engine, cybersecurity, functional safety in general. And what we do is it's anything from the original equipment of the manufacturers who need, let's say, product certification, all the way to the end users that actually use those products. Now, exida, we provide software tools, training, consulting, and procedures related to functional safety, to security, reliability, and we have a suite of product or services that we offer. Okay, and depending on the different standards that you're looking at, it could be anything in 161511 for end users, 62061 or 13849 for machinery. 26262 for automotive, alarm management. You have cybersecurity, 62443. We have engineering tools, and this is something I've never really utilized fully until recently, and it's so nice having a software program do all the calculations for you. We have also the product certification, which is something I spend a lot of my time in. Someplace in the world, it seems like once a week, if not more, we now have a training in some part of the world there. Reference material, we seem to try and publish as much as we know. We like to be an open book, and so to speak, no pun intended actually, but yeah, anything that we know we like to put in a book and share with people so that they now have the research as well. And today we're going to be focused more in the professional certification area. Now that we're going to dive into this presentation, please know that you do have a questions bar right there on your right-hand side. If by any chance you want to write any type of questions to me, feel free. And if it's not during the middle of the presentation, if I don't get to it at the end, I will make sure to go through all the questions. Now, when a product is being developed and it needs to meet, let's just say, some certain safety parameters for functional safety, one thing that you want to look into is who's actually performing the work. Are they competent? How do you know they're competent? And if you look at the newer standards, IEC actually beefed up their language and now recommends personnel certification. And this is why, if you haven't seen it before, why it's becoming more and more of a topic. It's actually why we're doing this webinar today, because people are trying to figure out, how do I show this level of competency and what level of competency do I need? And I do hear of these certificate programs and what are the benefits from these certificate programs. If you look at 61511, you'll see here paragraph 1, or part 1, paragraph 5.222. It does say persons, departments, or organizations involved in the safety lifecycle activities shall be competent to carry out the activities for which they are accountable. And as some of you know, there's prescriptives and there's performance standards. And now that this is a performance-based standard, it doesn't necessarily tell you all the different steps on how to reach that end goal, but you need to now justify how you provide competency. And that's the nice thing about performance-based standards is you don't have to follow one certain path to meet the requirement. As long as you can justify your requirements and prove your competency in this sense, you do meet that requirement. Now, as functional safety, as it progressed, we've early on, or actually early on, we saw a need for an advisory board to help us stay ahead of the trends and the changes in the industry. This board of ours, it recommends, it reviews, it identifies problems and concerns, it establishes policy for us, and even helps resolve complaints. The advisory board has really played an integral part in the growth of our company and kept us ahead of the trends, so to speak. We like to stay ahead of the game and make sure we know the latest and greatest and are prepared for changes in the industry, much like the changes to standards. They're a part of all the committees. They're the ones leading the efforts, and some of the people that are on our advisory board are from those companies that you see in front of you. If you are on the board and your company's not listed here, my apologies. Send me a quick note, and I'll make sure I update this slide. So when we talk about the FSP program, first let's back it up before we even talk about the different types of programs. And first we need to understand, because this is something that gets mixed up a lot. It's, okay, what is a certification? And then what is a certificate? And before you pick one, you know, there are people who want the simplicity, people who want the ease of, let's just say, a certificate program, because they don't necessarily need to be that mentor. They don't necessarily need to be that leader in the industry, but they have a role where they must understand, let's say, functional safety. They must understand, hey, this SIL thing keeps coming up. I need to make sure I know what I'm talking about, at least know enough to be dangerous. So if you look at the right-hand column, you'll see that a certificate program is the results from an educational process. It's for newcomers, or it even can be for experienced professionals. It can, it's basically a program where there's a training involved that's mandatory, and from that training, you take an exam based off that training material, and as long as you pass with the requirements, you get that certificate. Okay? A certification, the easiest way to say, because this is where those leaders, those mentors, those people that want to lead that industry, those people go for certifications. Maybe their title is functional safety leader, you know, within company X. Those people want to get a certification. They need to take that next step and go for a little bit more. And the certification is one in which does not need a training. And that's the easy way to put it. There's more things involved. There's higher requirements, or there's stricter standards that you have to meet. Certification is based off of IEC 17024, which is a personnel certification standard. So there's a lot of different requirements needed to keep the impartiality on a certification. If you look at this type of diagram, if tier 1 could be the very bottom, right, that would be the certificate level. This is where the functional safety practitioner sits. And if you could visualize this as the top part of that triangle, right? So you see these three tiers. Let's think of this as the top 30%, right? And there's a bigger triangle underneath it. So I don't want to de-edify anything at all. What I'm trying to picture here is to show the difference between the programs, and then we'll talk into why this FSP program is so valuable. So the certificate level is when people are getting into and starting to become serious with their industry. So people want to learn more. They want to learn about functional safety, and they want to show their competency. But they don't have to show their competency on a level to where, hey, look, I had 10, 15, 20 years of experience within functional safety. I am that mentor. I passed the FSP. No, really, that's when someone should be passing the CFSP or CFSE, right? The level above. But the certificate program is for anyone that can now go into a room, they can focus on the information, they can consume it. Because even just sitting in on a training program, there's so much information that people take a training course 2 or 3 times to make sure they fully understand the material. But at the end of this training material, as long as you can pass that exam, provide your competency, you do get that certificate, right? And you can become the functional safety practitioner. So what is the functional safety practitioner program? This program is a certificate program, and it addresses the growing need to provide confirmation that an attendee showed competency by retaining the knowledge presented in that course. This program provides an analysis where the candidate's strengths and weaknesses lie. What's great about a certificate program is at the end, you actually get to learn what questions you missed. You get to learn the areas you need to improve upon, or hey, you get to understand the areas that you already are competent and you missed nothing, right? And that's different from a certification where you take the exam and you basically get a pass or fail, and they don't give you too much information as to questions you missed. Why? Because they got to keep it impartial. They can tell you maybe key area focused areas, but you don't get to understand your exact questions because you're supposed to be that mentor. You're supposed to be that leader in the area. And it's nothing that, I'm still learning. No, if you're taking the CFSP or CFSE, you should be that expert. You should be that master. And, that is the big difference here. But for a functional safety practitioner, it is a fantastic thing to do so that you can see where your competency lies. Sure, some people have questions where they say, look, Ted, the 61511 is a great standard, the process industry, but I do things in alarm management. I do things in cybersecurity. I'm an IT guy. I'm an OT guy. Or, hey, I'm a HAZOP guy. That's good because the FSP, as long as there's a training, right, and it's a certificate training, there will be that exam at the end. So you can be a functional safety practitioner in many different categories. And there'll be a slide coming up, actually here in the next 2 slides, where you can see people that have an FSP, but they're in different categories. So to get to figuring out who is a functional safety practitioner, or who have taken this course and passed, or even if they are an FSP and you see it maybe on their signature at the bottom, what area did they pass? And after you go to the exida site, you click on FSP, and you can pull up the people that have passed. And this has only been within 2 or 3 years. There's already 500 people that have passed to become a functional safety practitioner. And this is a quick snapshot showing 31 to 40. So these are 10 people who have passed of the 500 and some entries. You can see the specialty, process, automotive, safety software development. So it's neat that people can achieve this goal because this is their area of focus. And I think that's what's really important is it's not down to the smallest detail, but at least you can see where their area of focus lies and, where they took that exam. What's also nice about the functional safety practitioners, whether you take the exam in the UK, in Germany, United States, it's the same exact exam. So it's the same bar, it's the same standard. So this way you can judge apples to apples. What are the advantages? And I know that was the title of this program or this webinar today, but what are the advantages of a functional safety practitioner? There's some great stuff here. It can provide proof of competency, where we talked about. It will increase the functional safety skills because you're going to learn different areas of functional safety you may or may not have known. If you fail in one area, you now know where you can improve. It increases the value of an employee. It increases the customer confidence even in that specific skill set. It'll differentiate yourself from your competitors. And, of course, if you're interested in becoming a CFSE or CFSP, it now will prepare you to help you learn where your strengths and weaknesses lie. There's opportunities for advancement, responsibilities, increased compensation. Another thing that we're noticing is it's so interesting because let's say, for example, you go into a training class, right? Great, here's another training. I know I've been going to trainings a lot this year. My company gives me trainings. Now they're sending me out for this functional safety training. You go in there, it's like 3 or 4 days. You're like, great, I'm going to get a week behind on my emails, all my appointments, my proposals still need to go out. And you take this 3 or 4 days, and guess what happens? You sit in this training course, and your company pays a lot of money for you to be there, and you're checking email. You're looking at phones, and you jump out to answer a few phone calls. That's normal. Believe it or not, that's Some people might even laugh, but yeah, that happens. That really does. You know, you get sidetracked. You start thinking about what you want to do on the weekend. It's beautiful weather outside, or you got big plans. Your vacation's coming up. You haven't booked travel, so all these things go through your head. Guess what happens when that instructor comes and says, "Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. There's an exam at the end of this training course. Pay attention and let me know if you have any questions." So at the end, you can see if you pass or fail. Wow. All of a sudden now, here's what we're finding. Classroom discussions, they start increasing. There's more engagement throughout the entire training course. Your phones automatically start disappearing. Emails, the computer lid stays shut longer. And what's a great thing is even the people taking these training courses, since this certificate program has been released, the results have come back with the surveys. They say, hey, look, this was a fantastic training. I've learned so much. I'm understanding this material finally. Even the company from where the individuals work will contact them and ask, hey, how are your employees? Have you seen a change? Do you think they're more competent? Here are the results from their exams, and the feedback is fantastic. The value goes up for these training courses. Budgets are becoming easier to get approved because why? People are going and coming back, retaining this information. And it's a powerful, powerful thing, especially, it helps in the United States, but even countries around, even Germany and the UK, and India even, where companies need, in order for employees to get paid, have paid trainings, they have to come back providing justification that they are competent. So they need some type of an exam to provide that evidence that, hey, I'm here, I passed, I did what you wanted, your money was well spent, right? And what's great is because it's a certificate program, and it's based off the training, we're seeing statistically, you saw 500 something people pass, 90% or so, roughly 90% or so are passing this exam, which is fantastic. There are agencies that brag about 100% pass rate. For me, that's troubling. I don't know where you stand, but if someone's saying, hey, take our training course, this is 100%, this is like 100% pass rate, barely anyone feels, I challenge and say, look, you don't want everyone to pass. Sure, we hope everyone passes, but there's going to be those people that don't pay attention. There's going to be people that come in there with the wrong attitude, or maybe they're too busy doing something else. But 100% pass rate for me is kind of troubling because maybe those questions, maybe you should bring it up a couple of levels just so that there's some proof of credibility in that exam, right? I see a question coming in, or I'll answer it now just because we're kind of on the topic. But with an FSP, mind you, certificate programs, right? Certifications, of course, they're different, but certificate, we're just going to say in the certificate level, right? So if I go back to, what slide was this? Right here. So you can see a few listed below. ISA, TUV, exida. Everybody has their own certificate program. Mind you, not all certificate programs are created equal. What does that mean? That means for us, you'll see we have requirements on how much expertise you need to take this training course. It's very minimal. But then you'll have some other agencies that say, hey, we need 10 years of experience, and we need all these other accolades to take our training course. That's fine. That's great because that gets a higher level of people to take these training courses. We feel for a certificate program, we want people to go in and provide competency from that training material. So we're not going to hold anyone away from taking this training course to prove their competency. I believe that is for a certification. Right? That's for someone that wants to be a mentor or wants to be a leader in the industry. So because we provide a lower expertise level, and this is based off of training, we do not provide, the question was, is there a renewal time for the for the FSP certification? No. Once you pass this training course, that certificate will never need to be renewed. We do not believe you need to renew a training program, right? A certificate from a training program. If you want a certification, that's someone in the industry that must provide competency throughout and throughout to prove that they are still that leader, that mentor in the industry. We want to see their physical work as how they're staying active in the community, and how are they providing their competency and experience throughout. So that's when you need a recertification. Now, here's the thing. There are certifying bodies that will require you to renew your training program certificate, right? We are just not one of those, so there will be no renewal. Ooh, another good question. I may as well answer this one now. This one I'd have to get back to you, Mana. But they're asking, for those people who previously took a training and this FSP was not available yet, will they be grandfathered so that they can take the FSP test without an additional cost? Ooh, that's a good one. You know what? I have not thought of that. If you don't mind, send me a quick email, and I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can make that available to you so you can take it. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to take that exam. So yeah, by all means, send me an email, and I'll work my magic and see if I can get you an exam that you could take even online, so you don't have to go anywhere. Let's continue on. Great questions so far. Thank you so much. We've provided you, okay, so how do you earn an FSP certificate? I kind of briefly already mentioned it, but you want to submit your credentials. You need to attend a training course. Training course is mandatory in a certificate program. Not in a certification, but a certificate program is mandatory. To pass, you need 80%, and all the exam material will be based off that training program. For us, the requirements, forget about the CFSE or CFSP. Remove those two. This is just the FSP. We're just talking about the FSP requirements. We say just 2 years of project experience, 2 years maybe, or 2 years of a degree. And the exam's only 1 hour long. Okay, so it's at the end of that training program. There'll be 1 hour at the very end where you get to take this exam, open notes, open book, open slides. You just have an hour to make sure you get through the questions. So this is kind of fun. We're going to 3 sample questions, right? These won't be on the exam, but they are similar questions to what you may see. And if there's something you don't understand, it could be because you just haven't taken the time to go through the functional safety standard, or 61511 or 61508. Well, you just haven't taken the training course, because this stuff is from the training material. The first question is, a pressure transmitter has a systematic capability rating of SIL 3. Therefore, what? This transmitter can be used in any SIL level. Transmitters are excluded from systematic capability evaluation. Field instruments are excluded from systematic evaluation. This device may be used in a SIL 1, SIL 2, or SIL 3 SIF design. This transmitter may be used in any SIF rated below SIL 3. And if you haven't guessed it, it was D, SIL 1, SIL 2, or SIL 3. So anything that's capable of SIL 3 can be SIL 3. It can also be SIL 2, SIL 1. It can't be SIL 4. A catching point on this is that the system, right? So you have the pressure transmitter may be capable of a SIL 3. However, if the SIF is only rated at SIL 2, even though you have a SIL 3 pressure transmitter, it can only be as high as SIL 2 for the system, because there could be something in that SIF that keeps it below. So the lowest of the 3, of the logic solver, the sensor, the final element, of those 3, they must all meet SIL 3 to be SIL 3. If one of those is SIL 2, your whole system is SIL 2. All right, so that's because I had a question from the earlier session. Well, hey, look, well, why was my system only SIL 2 when I had a SIL 3 device? Well, you might have one of your devices as SIL 3, but the whole system needs to be SIL 3 in order for it to achieve that level. All right, let's try another question. In order to reduce dangerous stiction failures in a spool-type solenoid valve, automatic stroked testing is designed at a test rate of what? Once every 2 months? Once a month? Once per week? Once every 6 months? Or once per year? This one could be tricky, but the key thing is when do you start noticing that stiction can increase your failure rates? It's actually after a week, right? There's a lot of research been going on. started about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, on strictly just stiction. Stiction is something, and let me give you an example, an easy example. Let's say you come into work, you got an extremely busy day, you're frustrated, you get your coffee, you put it down on your table, and immediately your boss comes in. Look, Ted, I need you today. I need you to come over to my office. We got to work on this now. You go, you work hard, you get everything done, you go home. The next morning, you're like, there's my coffee. You pick it up, and it kind of sticks a little bit. That's an easy way of saying what stiction is. Think of that, but in the process industry. Okay, let's say you have a valve, and you got to keep in mind the different environments. There's so many factors that play with stiction. But let's say you have this valve in it, and it sits, right? The longer it sits, the higher the probability that it's going to stick when it wants to open. And we start having noticeable, we start noticing friction within a week's time of that valve. Now, that does not mean, because we had another question this morning, that does not mean you have to do some kind of proof testing every week. No, what we're saying is that stiction starts occurring as little as a week of it sitting there, right? So if you have a device that has been sitting there for a year, your probability that opening it when you need it is going to be, it's the failure rates are going to be so much higher because of that probability. It could be brand new, but if you never turn it, you never test it, that stiction keeps building in there. Just think if you had it in the desert or even the deep sea. These devices aren't just sitting in an air-conditioned, cool, climated room, right? There's different environments that are going to increase the stiction rate. And so anyways, it occurs every once a week. That's when it starts to occur, but that does not mean you must test something once a week. Let's make sure we get that cleared up. All right, let's have another one. This one, I think a lot of people will understand if they know about their architecture, their hardware fault tolerances. You have two valves, and they're piped in series, okay? And both close when de-energized in a closed-to-trip final element assembly. What do you think this architecture is considered? So let's think about it. You got two valves, all right, that are lined up in a series. So they're not parallel. They're lined up in a series. And all of a sudden it trips. Boom. One of the valves trips. And it closes your system. What is that? Well, that's going to be your 1 out of 2 system, right? Because what it means is it means that you have two opportunities. Okay, you have two valves, and one needs to work. All right, so one, when it sees the failure, it will trip. Only one needs to do this to initiate and put that system in a safe state. So this is a 1 out of a 2 system, 1002. And it doesn't matter which one closes. As long as one initiates, boom, it trips. That's your 1 out of 2 system. And that was the conclusion. I just wanted to, because we do have those questions, I wanted to keep this pretty brief. But we get a lot of questions as to, well, why do I need to take this FSP? Or how can I provide my competency per these requirements of 61511? I know the new standard of 2016 from IC 61511. They have stronger requirements, and this is how. This is one way that you can provide that competency through a program like this. Now you need to determine which certificate program or certification is best for you, because many different agencies offer them. I can always provide my opinion, my guidance, but of course it's always up to the user to pick what is best for them. All right, let me see if there's a few questions that I have not yet answered. Give me one moment here. And while I answer some of these questions, if you do, because I have a question here on wanting to take a training, here's a few of the upcoming classes that all offer this FSP. But let's go here. Awesome. All right, it says exida FSP certification is leading the functional safety industry. How often do your research teams bring new initiatives and techniques to the training package other than the existing IC standards and interpretations? Well, our group, our advisory team, they get together once a quarter. And once a quarter, we talk about what's happening in the industry. We talk about, because we have many people on the different industry standards of IEC and of ISA, and they always bring back their feedback. What were the discussions? What were things being talked about? What are they seeing now? What are going to be on even the next revision of the newest standards? And so as we start getting this feedback, they pretty much tell us what we should and what we should not include on these training courses. Even in our certification scheme that we have, right? When we certify a product, we're now learning of different initiatives, if, you know, with 1H and 2H, and the different ways of hardware and fault tolerances, they're changing, and the industry changing. They're getting away from the safe failure fraction. If you're not familiar with that, that's going to be a thing of the past now. People aren't even going to talk about safe failure fraction because there's so many loopholes with that way. So how often? I'd say every quarter we go through, and we've even recently hired Jitana Wasserman, who she now is the main person looking at all these trainings, updating trainings, getting the latest and greatest templates. And you're going to see consistency in branding throughout all of our training packages, and we're going to refine everything because of the level of the stringent level that these new standards are bringing out, needing to show more competency. So we're spending more efforts on different types of trainings, and we're even going as far as now trying to take these one-on-one trainings and putting them more online and more on online applications due to, let's just say, travel budget cuts and things like that. Because as the industry changes, as people are noticing in oil and gas and, you know, a few others, you know, money isn't as easy to get budgets approved anymore. So how do we solve that problem? How can we keep people safer? These are the things that we're thinking of. So good question. If you have any more insight, please let me know, because we're always looking to improve. All right. If you have an FSP, can you place it in your email signature? Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely put. I would put exida FSP there. People are knowing that, at least here with our company, we're very conservative. We're very strict. So when you pass one of our courses, we hope that you get a lot out of your course. We've had many people say, "Look, I only missed it by 2. Just give me the certificate." I've seen some certifying bodies just grant people certificates. We don't do that. If you have an FSP, you earned the FSP. If you have a CFSE or CFSP, you earned those. So I would absolutely put that in your signature as well. That's a good question. I've never actually thought about that. Any other questions? That is all the questions for today. I want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. If I missed a question, please go ahead and email me. If you haven't already, another way that we've been more proactive is on the social media platforms. Go ahead and join whichever ones you see in front of you. We are trying to get all of our information out. So like if we do a new white paper, if we have a different type of topic that we want to talk about, different types of blogs, or even when you ask your questions, we want to try and get these things on these social platforms so that you get the information the fastest, so you don't have to wait for the next publication. You don't have to wait for an email. If you follow us, we're going to make sure we do our best now to get you the information as fast as possible, because I think that's how the industry is changing, so we are going to adapt as well. Do I have any more questions? Here we go. I got another question here. I might take this one offline so that I can get my Excellencia experts to answer this one. But the question was, I have found many people using Excellencia software, but they don't really understand the importance of the parameters that they're using. Do you believe that a person using your software should be an FSP? Well, that's a great question. Man, should they be an FSP? I can't tell you yes. I would like to just say, yeah, of course they should be an FSP. What I would like to say, Mona, is that at the very least, they should view one of our many Excellencia webinars that gives them these tutorials on how to use and what each parameter means. Or if you see a user, and this is where I need everyone else's help, if you see someone that might not understand it, we have over 100 and something different videos on our YouTube channel that is probably a webinar on that specific topic. So instead of them having to go and pay for a training, sit down and learn about functional safety, which would be absolutely amazing, at the very least, see if you can't send them to one of these webinars on, let's just say, Excellencia, right? And then that will be a free way to help them, right? Because we don't need to find ways to generate more income. We would rather just have the information, have you learn from it, so that you can, help make this world a safer place as well. So good question. Yes, they should be an FSP. However, there are ways that they can do it for free. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate everyone's time. This does conclude our webinar. If you have more questions, let me go back. You see the email in front of you. Feel free. I'll answer them as soon as I can, and look forward to it. Next week, we'll have another webinar. Take care for now, everybody. Bye-bye.